Hi guys, this is Anonymous with another Warcraft 3 audio commentary. This time is by special request. I'm pausing the video, by the way, so just so you know, the video isn't lagging. Um, this is by special request audio commentary on how to use the Warden versus Orc. Now, I paused the video because I have a lot to say beforehand that's not specifically related to this video. It was actually very hard to find a replay of this because it's not done, and I'll try to explain why that is. I mean, it's not just because pros have overlooked this strategy. There are real reasons that Warden is not used, particularly on Echo Isles, which is what the request was for. The requester said he had trouble beating a Blade Master on Echo Isles with a Warden, and so I'm going to try and explain how that can be done, and this is a game where Hot from Gravitas does manage to beat no less a player than Lyn, and this is Lyn and the peak of his ability, I think. But he's as we can see, he's not well prepared for this strategy. Anyway, I'll get to the actual game later, but first I want to talk about what the Warden is about and why people would use a Warden and what situations it's for, just for some background. And then we'll watch the game, and I'll explain what Hot is doing. He uses a different, not the typical Warden strategy. It's his own special Warden strategy that I've seen him use several times. And then at the end, I will talk about just some general things versus Blade Master, whether you're going Demon Hunter or Warden, in particular what your building placement should be, which is very important. So definitely watch the end if you have trouble beating Blade Master on Echo Isles. I'm going to be specific to this map because I have it here, but the same things work on any map. Anyway, the Warden. Warden is a nuking hero because the primary skill is Shadow Strike, whereas the DH, which is the Demon Hunter, the standard other hero that Night Elf would probably choose, is a DPS hero. DPS stands for damage per second. It's pretty much a Dota term. DPS hero meaning a hero that relies on the attack to deal damage over time at a decent pace. So that means the Warden wants things like mana. So good item for the Warden is the Greater Mana Pot. Good item for the Demon Hunter is Claws of Attack plus 9. Or plus 12 if you can get your hands on that. You can't on this map. Anyway, the level 1 Demon Hunter is quite a bit stronger than the level 1 Warden by virtue of having very high base damage. And this is important because if a Blade Master is going to be harassing your base, and Grunts are going to be coming to your base as well, Grunts have a lot of hit points and it takes a lot of damage to drive them off. So one has to consider the importance of having that power at level 1. Now a level 3 Warden, on the other hand, can be more powerful than the level 3 Demon Hunter. It sort of depends on items. The Warden is experience dependent as a hero. You get much stronger the more experience you have, whereas the Demon Hunter is... Sorry, I'm just moving around to keep things moving. The Demon Hunter is more item dependent. On Echo Isles, there are a lot of camps that drop Demon Hunter / Blade Master items. This is why Demon Hunter is almost universal on this map, as is Blade Master. I guess there are still a few people who pick Farseer, but I think it's a bad choice, just because there are so many Blade Master items. This camp drops one. This camp can drop one. I think I consider Talisman of Evasion a good Blade Master item as well, although some people don't. This camp drops one. You can buy them at the marketplace, which is always huge. The creep here drops a good Blade Master item, but it's not a standard one. It's usually what you want from the Ogre Magi is Greater Healing Pot, which is good on all heroes really, but it's very good on Blade Master as well, or the Invuln Pot. As I said, you can buy items from the marketplace, and also the back turtle camps drop good Blade Master items. Let's see, and this camp. Yes, I forgot this one. The inner Murloc camp drops a Blade Master item. So, Blade Master, Demon Hunter use the same items. Claws of Attack plus 6 are the big ones. Claws of Attack plus 9 can be dropped from the Merc camp creeps and from the turtle camp. So those are what you're going for if you get a Demon Hunter. That's why Demon Hunter is strong on this map. Think of it this way: on a map like Terranistan, where you have a quick level 3, the Warden is probably better than the DH. Although Terranistan has plenty of Demon Hunter items too, but the Warden can get level 3. That makes it strong. On this map, the Demon Hunter can get the items that it wants, and that makes it strong. So it's like I said, it's a trade-off between what's going to make your hero powerful and what isn't. Warden does not gain much from those Demon Hunter items, and conversely, the Demon Hunter does not gain all that much from levels. at least not anywhere near as much compared to what the Warden does. The Warden has one of the very few spells in the game whose damage is more than doubled when it gains a level. The Shadow Strike. Very powerful spell, and I'll talk more about that later. Anyway, the other thing is that the Demon Hunter burns mana, and you're facing Orc. Typically, Orc is going to go for a second hero that's either the Shadow Hunter or the Torn Chieftain. Both are mana dependent. Torn Chieftain against if you go Talons, and the Shadow Hunter if you go anything else. So, you have to be prepared to find a way to deal with those heroes without having mana burn if you're going to pick the Warden. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what the Warden is for versus various races, and don't worry, we will get the game started at some point, I promise. So, anyway, the Warden against Human, which is a fairly common pick, especially on Terranus Stand. In fact, that's pretty much the place where it's taken, always, and nowhere else. The Warden's job is to chase the Archmage around. The Archmage has obviously low hit points, it's a weak intelligence hero, and a Warden on Terranus Stand can also level up to 3 quickly. Level 2 Shadow Strike is extremely deadly against the Archmage. Humans hate it. They want to shoot you afterwards, but it works. So that's why you use a Warden on Terranus Stand versus Human, because their Archmage just has no chance. It's completely unfair. It's just ridiculous. And then, well, at least it feels that way. It doesn't feel so unfair when you realize that there's a Mountain King there that you can't possibly bolt. Sorry, that can bolt as much as it wants because you can't possibly burn it. Also, you can harass their Expo with the Fan of Knives and kill all the peasants, which is really nice. Against Undead, the Warden is also good because the Death Knight has no real way to heal. Undead does not have any really good source of healing until they get statues out. They can sit on the Blight, but then you can just come after them in there and put even more damage on it. So, and anyway, that means he's pinned back in his base, and you can creep freely. The Death Knight can't harass against a level 3 Warden. It can barely harass against a level 1 Warden with backup from let's say archers and perhaps a couple of mercs. And so the Warden's quite strong against Undead too. Once again, much more usual on a map like Terranus Stand, where you can get that quick level 3. Warden's very rarely picked versus Night Elf because so often the Night Elf is going to be using a Demon Hunter, and Warden is pretty much countered by Demon Hunter because of the mana burn, and Warden is very mana dependent. So I would not ever get it versus Night Elf unless you have advanced knowledge that the Night Elf is going Huntresses with Priestess of the Moon. If you're facing a Priestess of the Moon, the Warden could be decent in the same way that it's decent against the Human Archmage. The difference is that Night Elf has Moonwells to heal the Priestess, but in general, I'd just stay away from it in that matchup. Against Orc, the Warden has the Blademaster is a decent target for the Warden. You definitely have this feeling that it would be good to Shadow Strike it. The problem is Orc has a lot of counters to Warden. They have salves, which are like 33 gold for 400 hit points. That's pretty cheap. They have high hit point units that don't get killed by Shadow Strike easily. They have Windwalk to get away, so their slow is less effective. They have Spirit Link, which really totally wrecks Shadow Strike. They have the Healing Wave, which again, it's just it's a really rigged spell. It totally wrecks Shadow Strike, and it's Snare to prevent the Warden from blinking. So, all in all, Warden has some real problems versus Orc. So I think it's a good idea as a surprise choice, and we'll see here that Lyn is totally unprepared against it. But in general, the DH is probably the better hero for these reasons, because the Warden is just so heavily countered by the natural strengths of the Orc army. Now, like I said, for a variety choice is very good. You can beat people by surprising them. I don't think you'd beat them, 6 times in a row with it, unless you're just a better player overall. Now, okay, we're almost going to start the game, so, yeah, bear with me. There are 2 different strats that I can think of to use the Warden versus Orc. The first one is the solo Warden, which is typically what one would do against a human or an undead, and I'm not sure how well this would work. I haven't even been able to find a replay of it. I'm not sure how well it would work if it were played well. Basically,